The NFL Combine has begun, and for the Indianapolis Colts, all eyes are on the quarterback position. And after what we heard yesterday from Chris Ballard and Shane Steichen, are the Indianapolis Colts targeting Bryce Young? Well, let's talk about it. Welcome to the Horseshoe Huddle podcast presented by Fan Nation on SI.com. My name is Andrew Moore, and I'm joined here by my fellow writer, co-host, and colleague at Horseshoe Huddle, Drake Wally. Drake, the combine's begun. We're not talking about the coaching search anymore. We're talking about the draft. We're talking about players. Some people call it the underwear Olympics. I've already been glued to the combine since it started at 3 p.m. Eastern today. How are you doing, man? Are you excited as I am for this combine to get underway and for us to see some prospects out on the field at Lucas Oil Stadium?
Yes, because finally we're talking about future. We're talking about like the newness of what. It's always fun to watch it as an analyst or someone who covers the team like us, but we're also fans, man. So it's pretty fun to watch and just say, I hope they get that guy. I hope they get that guy. You're just having the blast. So I cannot wait to start watching some of these guys, especially the quarterbacks. I think like everybody else.
Right, absolutely. And it's going to be fun to watch. You and I are both going to be there. I'm heading down to Indy tomorrow. We're going to watch at least CJ Stroud, Will Levis, and Anthony Richardson throw in person on Saturday. So that's going to be a fun time. And this is when everything starts to ramp up. This is when it feels like the off season has truly begun. Let's look at the chat already. We got Bradley with an early question saying, love the show. If the Colts aren't sold on a guy to move up, do they stay at 4, save their capital, and take the guy with the most upside? And if it doesn't work out, trade up next year? Man, you're getting way ahead of ourselves. We'll see. We'll talk about some trades scenarios of where they might trade up, what the Colts might be thinking. JB, as always, loyal listener. I think Ballard should draft a young quarterback. I agree. A young quarterback would be nice. We love to see it. McGall, good to see you, man. Always good rare times when I can get off work. Great to see that you're here. And he said, Maygull. See, I got you. Brother. Maygull, I got you, man. And then Steve, loyal listener, always good to see you. We'll see if Stats Matt comes in. I'm not sure what he's doing. Maybe he's watching. There he is. Wish I could come up, but the wife made plans first. Dang it, Stats Matt. What's going on? Wombat is in here. We got Phoenix River. We've got Sarah, as always. You guys, we're in for a fun episode tonight. We're glad that you joined us. Hopefully you're watching the combine on another screen, but thank you for joining us. And we're closing in on that 1,000 subscriber mark. We're less than 200 away now. From all the things happening, me shaving my head, Drake doing a dance, Destin doing combine drills. So if you haven't already and you want to see all that, the ticker's getting ready to tell you what to do. It says like Horseshoe Huddle on Facebook. Go ahead and follow at Colts on FN on Twitter. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and hit that bell so you know whenever Drake and I are going live, Shad and Destin are going live, because draft season is upon us and things are ramping up. So without further ado, Drake, we have a lot to get to tonight here. So Chris Ballard and Shane Steichen spoke at the NFL Combine yesterday. And if you already read my piece, you kind of know where I stand on this whole issue, but they had a lot to say. And like I say every single year, Chris Ballard in his end of year press conference and in this combine, when he speaks to the media, well, he doesn't come out and tell you what he's thinking. Every single year, he leaves little nuggets of what he's kind of thinking behind the scenes, what the Colts are thinking internally. And if you're listening close enough and you know what to look for, you can usually pick up on some things that the Colts are thinking. And I think Shane Steichen did the same thing yesterday as well.
Yeah, and the thing is, everybody was talking about how I think it was a really awesome way that our own Zach Hicks said it on Lockdown. He's like, he was very sassy. Ballard was like he was just very sassy in what he was saying, and like he was like pointing, wagging his finger at people, and then Steichen was very like stoic, quick, done. Let's just get me in front of, kind of like almost like Peyton Manning when they asked him when he was a rookie, what are you going to do with your first rookie check? I don't know about any of that. I'm just excited to get into the film room. That's
right.
Shane Steichen. So two very different interviews, but both should make you happy if you're a Colts fan.
Steichen is all about ball. Sarah, we appreciate you saying to please sub. Our most loyal listeners really appreciate it. So Drake, let's dive in here. We're going to start out with what Chris Ballard said yesterday, and we're going to look at these clips and kind of dissect what each one of them mean as far as what the Colts are looking at in terms of the quarterback position. So first of all, the first question was asked, what does Chris Ballard look for in a quarterback, or what are the traits that Chris Ballard wants in his next quarterback? And he started out with the joke, but then just take a listen to what he said.
One that wins. No, I mean, look, you want a guy that's got a fast mind, who's accurate. Like, we get caught up in arm strength, but guys that is accurate, and then who makes plays when the game's on the line. And I know I'm going to get this question, but like, I think we're seeing today, they come in all different shapes and sizes. I mean, you look around the league, and I think you can track this back to 7-on-7 back in high schools 25 years ago when they started, that more kids that, you're getting a lot more athletes playing the position. So they're going to come in different shapes, different sizes, some tall, some short, some athletes, the ability to move, navigate the pocket, escape from the pocket, create plays with your feet. I mean, all those are things that we're seeing in our league. Not that we haven't seen them before, but I think it's even become more prevalent.
So Drake, you hear that? All shapes and sizes is what Chris Ballard said in terms of the quarterback. What do you think? What do you take away from what Chris Ballard said there about what he looks for in his QB?
Well, the thing is, Ballard is so intelligent, so there's so much to look into. There's like branching off things you can analyze, but very short. Number one, he said game on the line. That tells me he's still a little shocked from the Carson Wentz days. I'm not even lying. Like he losing that Jacksonville game and not even getting in the playoffs, I think it's still with him. So he wants to get a guy who's got the mentality, but I do think that he covered and he did a great job of it, just not even tipping his hand to anything. I mean, he's talking literally, he goes athleticism, that's Richardson. He goes size, that's probably Richardson and Levis and Young. And I mean, he covered every single one of those four quarterbacks in an answer. But I do think that it left open interpretation that, hey, that whole thing about the size of a player, that's not applying this time to Bryce Young. That could definitely be interpreted that way.
Rich Wheeler says Ballard still looks angry about last season. Hopefully he doesn't fire himself 100 times again. To me, I mean, obviously that the accuracy point is big. And not only has Chris Ballard said that, Shane Steichen has said that the quarterback needs to be accurate. Now, Steichen also said the accuracy could be taught, but you want your quarterback to not only be able to throw it with or have a howitzer for an arm, they need to place it on point. That ball placement, especially with the little bit of the little holes in the NFL, as far as the such a slight margin for these guys to be open, that matters. So if you're not going to be an accurate quarterback, you probably aren't going to be the quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts. And I know Steichen said it, you can teach it. But a lot of times, as Ballard has said, when things get rough, a lot of times if you have bad mechanics, it can kind of revert back to that. But that comment, him saying they come in all shapes and sizes, really stuck out to me, because Ballard has been such a big guy as far as in terms of the measurables and in terms of having guys that are the prototypical height, weight, kind of speed guys, length. That's what he looks for. Obviously, he hasn't been drafting a quarterback, so there isn't really a benchmark for what he might look for in a quarterback. But saying all shapes and sizes, it doesn't really seem, and I think as we continue to go through this, it doesn't seem like Bryce Young's size really is a big knock on him, or at least to the Indianapolis Colts.
Well, and I was also thinking kind of Ballard should be open to the idea of Young, because look, his job's on the line. He doesn't have the luxury anymore of he can't get this draft wrong. You need to consider everybody. And I do think that also isn't, I think you should definitely throw some credit to Bryce Young that he is good enough, I feel like, and would fit. I think our own Zach Hicks wrote an article about how he could fit in a Steichen offense. Maybe Steichen is in Ballard's ear saying, look, this is my guy. I want Bryce Young. We don't know. But it is kind of nice, honestly, to hear that he's open to anything at this point. He's open to anything. If it's the best fit for the team, maybe Bryce Young's height, weight, it doesn't matter to him for the first time in his, tenure as a GM.
Right. And then kind of piggybacking off of that, Chris Ballard did talk about how he was asked, you've been typically a guy that has very strict measurable requirements. And does that change with a quarterback? And it was kind of interesting to see what he said.
Still are. And I'm not going to sit here and say we're not. But there's always exceptions. And we've seen that at the quarterback position here, in the past. And we've had guys that have been under 6 foot be successful. And I know there's been times I've griped that some guys can be too tall. All right. And now we're going to say they're too short. So I think beauty's in the eye of the beholder. And who do you believe in? Who do you believe you can build an offense around? And I do know this: you don't fit the offense to the quarterback. You fit you fit the offense to what the quarterback can do well. I think that's what Shane and the staff will do.
So, and that's the thing. He said they come in all different shapes and sizes. You can get them big, you can get them small, and that's the key word there are exceptions to that rule, and Chris Ballard has made exceptions to that for various players. And the thing about that exception is typically that player has something that makes them truly special. And I think when it comes to Bryce Young, I've been watching more and more of his film as I kind of put my final grade on him. You see how he processes. You see the intangibles about how his accuracy, how he can create his movement within the pocket. His play really is special. Honestly, if he was even 6 foot, 6'1", 210 pounds, we'd probably be talking about Bryce Young as if he was Joe Burrow coming out in that 2020 draft class.
Well, and that's the thing that's really been, we've talked about it, man. It's the only knock you can put on him. He can get out of the pocket. He makes great decisions. There are some tapes of him, having time in the pocket and not having the arm strength, but it's like those are also like 40 yards downfield kind of throws that, and very few interceptions, takes care of the ball. Like you said, if he's 6'1", he's the most pro ready without question. There's no question about him being the number 1 pick. So I do think that with just even those 2 clips, there is a real possibility. I know we can't read into it too much because you don't want to tip your hat to anybody, but it sounds like Ballard may have changed his narrative on having a guy that's the right size at quarterback.
Right. And Stats Matt says, I think Ballard is smoke screening personally, and he very well could be.
That could be, yeah.
It is smoke screen season. And Chris Ballard does hold a lot of things close to his chest, but I just think these little nuggets here and there. And he does this every year. He really does. If you listen careful enough, he tells you what he's thinking without actually coming out and saying it. And he's done this before. He did it last year when talking about the wide receiver position. Colts go out and get Alec Pierce. Did it the year before. Talking about how the pass rushing. He goes out and gets Kwity Paye and Dio Dangbo. You just the various different things, because he the thing about this is, with the size, he wasn't prompted. He wasn't asked specifically about the size at first. He was the one that came out and said they come in all different shapes and sizes. And yes, he could have been asked that eventually, and maybe he was trying to get ahead of that. But typically, when unless you are prompted and forced to pull that out, that's just coming out naturally. And then another thing that Bryce Young has really excelled at is the intangibles. And here's what Chris Ballard had to say about intangibles at the quarterback position.
That's where the intangibles. It's so key. the ability to process, to handle. I mean, what we put on the quarterback, just not only from a play standpoint, but off the field. Automatically he gets deemed the face of the franchise, right or wrong. That's what happens, and they got to be able to handle that. And then and then when they have success, it's not just the moment of when they're drafted, and then it's once they even have success, they still got to be able to handle it. They can't become above the team. So there's a lot of factors that go to play in with that. And I mean, I think it's the hardest position to find. I mean, everybody's grabbing to find him. When you find one, you do whatever it takes to keep that guy. But it's a difficult position to evaluate, difficult position to find.
And that's why franchise quarterbacks don't grow on trees. But Drake, what do you think Chris Ballard was saying about the intangibles, and what do you think or how do you see the intangibles stacking up as far as the top 4 quarterbacks? I would say who do you think has the best intangibles out of those 4?
Oh man. I mean,
I think, tough question.
Well, dude, even your piece broke down, what each one of those 4, I believe it was what they'd be looking for, what they'd need to show out for in the draft. So that is an entire episode. But if I had to immediately knee-jerk decision, everyone knows I'm an Anthony Richardson guy. Okay. He's got the intangibles when it comes to the athleticism, and it's been showing that he's been doing pretty good in the film room too with the questions. But right out of the gate, I'd be ridiculous not to say Bryce Young. I think Bryce Young, as far as top to bottom, he's the most pro ready. He's got the most skills that could hit. He's got the skills that could hit the ground running for a team that really isn't. I've said this before. They're not that far off. The Colts just need stability, and they need a quarterback and an offensive play caller who can progress, and they could potentially have both those things. But right out of the gate, I think Bryce Young and CJ Stroud's a close second.
Yeah, as Miguel says, I think all the top 4 have the intangibles that he talks about. Steve says smoke, 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 while JB says nuggets, nuggets, nuggets. So there's and I honestly I don't know if Stats Matt means to play devil's advocate here, but I like that he's doing it because he's bringing up good points. And he said this could be smoke screen by using the media. Can't remember exactly who it was, but the father of Ballard's godchild said Ballard hates undersized players, and he does. I mean, it took a lot of convincing for Chris Ballard to even go, sign Kenny Moore back in the day, and we saw how that turned out. But again, when you're talking about if a guy is undersized, he's got to have that he's got to have that it factor or that being that special for them to say, okay, this guy, it doesn't even matter if he doesn't hit our measurables, we still got to go and get them. So it's pretty crazy. And as Stats Matt has said, reports are Richardson is nailing the interviews. I think he even shows more ability to read a field than Levis. I've heard that Richardson and Bryce Young have both been absolutely killing their interviews. And we knew Bryce Young was going to. Bryce Young's football IQ is absolutely through the roof. It's going to be a very, very interesting for them to see how these guys really stack up as far as those intangibles goes, and whether or how the Colts rank them and how much it has an effect on whether the Colts want to take one or stay at 4 there.
And that is going to be the biggest thing, is that I argue, I really do think that they have a guy in mind. I know that everyone's like, oh, well, these guys aren't that far off. Look, you don't have a clear cut like Andrew Luck, Peyton Manning, Dan Marino type of prospect here. Each one really excels in their own way. One's cerebral, one is an incredibly accurate passer, one is athletically freakish, and the other one might be, I think the biggest question mark at this point on, here in March 2nd is Will Levis at this point, because you're hearing like more and more on Richardson, more things that are concrete. Levis is really the question mark right now. And so it's so difficult to figure out which one of these guys is going to fit. But at the end of the day, I really do think Shane Steichen is going to have such a huge part on just how aggressive the Colts are to go get that guy.
Right. And let's kind of transition to Shane Steichen, because Ballard said yesterday that they're going, just like how they did with Frank Reich, they're going to lean very heavily on this offensive staff as far as who they want and who they think could best be what they're trying to accomplish with the offense. And for Shane Steichen, our first clip that we have here, he kind of talked about as well the traits that the quarterback needs to have. He kind of touched on this in his opening press conference, but he went a little bit deeper into it yesterday, and here's what he had to say.
Traits, yeah. I mean, obviously, you got to be able to throw it and cut it through the wind and all those things. But again, the accuracy is one of the biggest things. Like, I think when it's 3rd and 8 and you got to have it, like, you got to be able to stand in the pocket and deliver a strike with the guy coming down, barreling down your chest. I think that says a lot about a guy's toughness. I look for that on tape. Obviously, the vetting process of it, but the physical traits, obviously, guys come in different shapes and sizes. We've seen Hall of Famers that are 6 foot. We've seen Hall of Famers that are 6'5". Like, again, it's that it factor, right? Because everyone's going to have some talent you got to find and dig deep. No, I mean, no, we've seen it done. Drew Brees is a great example. He's phenomenal.
And right there, again, all different shapes and sizes. Both guys said that. This isn't something that is just made up. Both guys specifically said all shapes and sizes. Now, if they're trying to throw everybody off by doing this, I think they're doing a very good job. But I think it means something. I think they both of these guys use the exact same phrase. It coming in all different shapes and sizes.
Yeah, and it's interesting to hear it kind of like you said in coalition, which should make a lot of people excited. All right, because there was a big disconnect this last season between staff and owner and GM. Everyone's on the same level, it seems. And so that also says to me that if Steichen is like, look, Bryce Young might be 5'10", 195, whatever, but this guy has everything we're looking for. Everything I'm looking for. I mean, this is a guy who has coached Rivers. He's coached Herbert. He's coached Hurts. I'm telling you, this guy knows this guy's opinion is going to be king. And the fact that him and the GM are both on the same level, I really think it's just going to take Steichen saying, I want Bryce Young. And then Ballard's like, all right, what do we got to give up for the number 1 pick? Like, he'll start talking about that and start, potentially negotiating that process.
Right. And as Miguel says, the cement doesn't dry until draft day. This is going to be an ongoing process.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely. So, and as Rich Wheeler said, Steichen is watching third down tape as you speak on these 4 guys. It is kind of funny that he mentioned when you're on it's 3rd and 8 and you got a guy barreling down your chest. You want a guy that stands in there and rifles it for a first down. I saw somebody tweet a literally a 3rd and 8 play of Bryce Young getting pressure right up the middle, stood firm in the pocket, took a big hit, delivered a perfect ball for a first down. I don't know if that's why Shane Steichen said 3rd and 8 specifically, but it would be quite the coincidence if he was. Phoenix Riser says, could they purposely be using that to make us think it's Bryce? Absolutely, they could.
Yep.
Like I said, it's smokescreen season, baby. Everyone is trying to throw everybody off, and it very well could be that that's the case. It could be why you're seeing it could very well be a campaign that they want everybody to think that they're wanting to go after Bryce Young. So instead people will want to go and trade up to get Bryce Young when really the Colts might like Anthony Richardson better or CJ Stroud better. But it's just going to be very interesting how this all plays out, because I think there's something to this madness. This isn't just all by mistake. But then Shane Steichen, I think he was asked about, because he mentioned having that it factor. He's always mentioned being obsessed with football, and he kind of went into how do the Colts kind of decide or find out what that it factor is, or if one of these quarterbacks has that it factor. And this is what he had to say.
Again, I think when you're evaluating guys, especially when you're going through the process, is the vetting of guys. You got to find out. You got to ask every single person that knows this guy, that's been around this guy. What's he like? What makes him tick? What's his office hours? How does he study tape? I mean, all those little details. And then as coaches, you got to have a detailed plan when you go and meet with these guys, whether it's here at the combine or they come in for the top 30 visit of, hey, here's the plan. Here's how we're going to find these things out.
And they're gonna find these things out. They really are. They're the ones that are going to really go deep and talk to go as deep as they can to find out everything about these guys. But from everything that I have read so far, and everything that I have seen and heard from different people I know, Bryce Young is probably the closest thing to having that it factor in this class.
Well, and we've said it multiple times. There's not a clear-cut generational QB, and that does
Right.
include Bryce Young.
Right.
But if you're talking about who's probably the closest to it right now, after there's still so much more, like you said. But after what we've seen up to here, March 2nd, it is Bryce Young. All right. He is the most pro-ready guy. He's got the high. I think that he's probably got the highest IQ without question. He makes the best decisions, and against some incredibly stiff competition. All right. He played pretty well in the face of pressure, kind of like you said, completing passes on very crucial downs. Again, this is both Steichen's first year. All right. He wants to hit the ground running. Ballard it's a make or break year. And it's been 5 years of a rotational carousel that nobody wants to remember. So I really do think that it's not off the table for them to go right up to number one and snag Bryce Young. But again, like you said, smokescreen season and everything is on the table that needs to be said. Anything can happen.
Right. And I mean, there are so many questions about Bryce Young's weight. And I think Stats Matt makes a good point here. How he may be closer to 200 this weekend, but he's not going to play around 200. I honestly do think once he is in an NFL strength and conditioning program, I think he can probably put on some mass. But then once you get into the season, I mean, that playing weight is going to drop. I mean, we've seen Shaquille Leonard play the season at around 215 pounds as a linebacker. Once you're in the season, it's hard to really keep on that muscle weight that you want to see. And that's going to be talked about no matter what Bryce Young weighs on Saturday at the combine. His frame and his size is going to be talked about not only up until draft day, but after draft day. It's going to be something that follows him his entire career as far as why he is able to, or if be able to withstand the hits that he's going to take in this league. And that's just something that he's going to have to deal with, and something that he's going to have to really manage throughout his entire career.
Well, and he's been compared to Kyler Murray. All right. Now, here's the thing about Kyler Murray. He's very, very sneaky. He can get away from contact. He knows how to avoid it. His have been non-contact injuries, if I'm not mistaken. So it's like if Bryce Young can do something similar, then he'll be fine. If Shane Steichen can work on his footwork enough and awareness and the blind side, awareness and everything, he can learn how to navigate minus his size. I mean, he can legitimately do it. He is the most, again, pro-ready guy in the NFL draft period when it comes to quarterbacks. So, and it might not even be close. I think the closest guy is Stroud, and he's still a couple steps behind with the IQ.
Right. And I like this comment here. If Bryce Young was CJ Stroud or Anthony Richardson size, he'd be a generational player. Yep. That is true. That is true. And like I said, one of my comp for Bryce Young, my high-end comp for him is a smaller Joe Burrow. I think he has a lot of the traits that Joe Burrow has. Very accurate, the maneuverability within the pocket, being able to control the line of scrimmage. He is probably got the highest football IQ out of all the quarterbacks in this class.
Yep.
So yeah, I really like that. But then let's look at our final clip of Shane Steichen here, talking about how and he's kind of again on the same page as Chris Ballard, adjusting the scheme to the quarterback and not having the quarterback come in and having the quarterback necessarily adjust to the scheme.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think, again, whoever that guy is back there throwing it, you got to adjust to him. You got to build the offense around the quarterback first and foremost. You can't be stuck in your ways of, hey, this is the system we run or whatever it is. Like, you got to be able to adapt to that guy. And not only that guy, it's all the players around him, the receivers, the tight ends, put those guys in position to make plays. What does this receiver run well? What does this tight end do well? What does these backs do well? The offensive line. And I think it's the same thing on defense. Like, you got to put these guys into position to maximize their talents so they can shine on Sunday.
And he talked a lot about I mean, all the other players being able to adjust the scheme to all those other players. But since we're focusing in on quarterback, to me, what this means is, I mean, I hear a lot of people trying to link quarterbacks to the Colts based on what Shane Steichen has done in the past, especially with Jalen Hurts. I don't necessarily think that just because he had success with Jalen Hurts, that the Colts are automatically looking for Jalen Hurts 2.0. They're going to look for the quarterback that they think not only has the highest ceiling, but fits everything they look for. Like I said, accuracy, ability to create, decision making, and that obsession with football. Drake, what do you say?
I agree 100%. And we, the people that do want to say that, which I've actually been one of those people, but you've learned that Steichen is way more akin to adjusting to whoever is brought in. Now look back at his very brief, we already said these names. You got the pocket passer in Rivers. You've got the ability to create and run when he needs to guy in Herbert. And you've got the freakish athlete in Jalen Hurts. You've got all three of them. It needs to be said that I truly believe that he could coach any one of these four guys, but there's going to be somebody that's going to stick out to him way more than the other three. And he's going to make that case to Chris Ballard. And whether they feel like they need to go up to get him, or they're just smoke screening and they end up, he falls to 3 and you just got to trade with Arizona. Right. It's all about these mind games, but there's somebody that they have as a clear-cut number one. It's just they're smoke screening it so well.
And that's why I think I just think this is going to be so interesting to watch. And I don't think we're even near an answer of or even near a trade happening for that number one pick. But this is kind of our last point before we get in. I'll pull this up. So the main question, title of our episode here: are the Indianapolis Colts targeting Bryce Young? And we've got one more clip. It's what Chris Ballard had to say when he was asked specifically about Bryce Young as a prospect. And here's what he had to say.
Well, I mean, look, guy's dynamic. He won a lot of games on a big stage. It was never too big for him. I think all those are qualities that he's proven in his college career that have made him successful.
So again, not giving much, not showing him being overzealous or overhyped about Bryce Young, but I just keep coming back to all shapes and sizes, one that wins, accurate. All of these things describe Bryce Young. So Drake, I want the answer from you, then I'll give mine. Are the Colts targeting Bryce Young, and why?
I absolutely do believe that there is I can't say, I don't want to say that's their number one guy, but they're definitely considering Bryce Young. Mm-hmm. All right. And very simple. He would be a good fit for Steichen because Steichen would adjust to him and would maximize his transition and make it the easiest it could be. And he's the most pro-ready guy with the best credentials, the highest football IQ. His ability to create is second to none, and he doesn't turn the ball over at all. He just didn't. That's just it. And if he can manage his body weight, I mean, I don't see why they wouldn't potentially be talking about him just like the other three.
Right. I'm going to go with this. Do I think the Colts are targeting Bryce Young? As of right now, no, because I don't think the Colts are targeting anybody right now. I think there's still a lot to go through. You want to see them at the pro days. You want to meet with them not only at the combine, but you're going to meet with them at the pro days. And your Colts are probably going to have each one of these four guys in for a top 30 visit as well. But having said that, do I think Bryce Young is currently the Colts quarterback one? Yes, I think he is. And here's why. I mean, you talked about let's go through those 4 points again. Accuracy, Bryce Young has it. Decision-making, Bryce Young has it. Ability to create, Bryce Young has it. Obsession with football, Bryce Young has it. So every single one of those 4 qualities, it screams Bryce Young. He's either the best in the class at that, or I would say he's the second best at each one of. Bryce Young checks all of those boxes. Yes, he is small. Yes, Ballard typically doesn't go after smaller players. However, There are exceptions. Here's those nuggets, guys, and this is why I see this every year. If you've been watching me for years on a Colts podcast, you know. And this is how I was able to predict that the Colts were going to get Michael Pittman Jr., how I was able to predict them to get Kwity Paye, because of these little nuggets that Chris Ballard leaves every single year. You can kind of tell what he wants, what the Colts are thinking behind the scenes, and what direction they're going to go. So as of right now, I think the Colts quarterback one is Bryce Young. Do I think the Colts are convinced that they need to trade up and get him yet? No. Will they be convinced by the end of this? Maybe, but they're going to have an answer either way. If they don't trade up and go get Bryce Young, then you know that they did not think of him as that generational type talent that they needed to go do that. But if they do, then you can tell that they were convinced of that over these coming weeks.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's been very, very well documented that when it comes to these two guys, I mean, already it's been well documented that it sounds like accuracy is the number one thing for Steichen, and for Ballard, it's kind of a mix with Steichen too, but it's the decision making, the ability to not let the moment be too big for you. After missing the playoffs because of 2 straight losses of teams you should have beat due to that, mixed with last season when you couldn't figure out your footing, offensively, that'll do that to you as a GM. So I think that right now, I agree with you. I do think that they're looking at him like, man, right now he's our number one, but you do have to see the combine. You do have to, continuously get more and more details. We still have almost 2 months. So there's still a lot of time for them to change their minds for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely. If I had to put a number on it, I would say percent wise, I would say that it's probably, 35% Bryce Young, 35% CJ Stroud. I would give 20% to Anthony Richardson, and I would give about 15% to Will Levis. That comes out. No, I go 10% Will Levis. That comes out to 100. So that's kind of where I stand. Obviously, things are going to continue to change, and any information that I hear, I will be able to provide to you guys, Drake, the same way. But don't be surprised. All I'm saying is don't be surprised if Bryce Young is wearing a blue horseshoe next season. So it's going to be interesting. This is what makes this time of the year fun. So Drake, let's move it along to some of the latest Colts news and rumors. We got some more coaching news to talk about before we wrap up the show tonight. And we're going to start with the quarterback coach. So on our episode on Monday, the Colts did not have a quarterback coach, but now it looks like they do, as Shane Steichen has reportedly hired former Cardinals quarterback coach Cam Turner as their new quarterback coach. Cam Turner is the nephew of a former head coach and offensive coordinator in the NFL, Norv Turner, who was Shane Steichen's mentor coming up through the league. And Cam Turner has spent the last 4 or 5 years with the Arizona Cardinals, was the quarterback coach for Kyler Murray for his entire career, spent the 2017 season with the Carolina Panthers coaching Cam Newton. Drake, what do you think about this hire for quarterback coach?
I absolutely love it. I actually think that it's a perfect situation because you've got Jim Bob Cooter, who had just helped Trevor Lawrence. Then you've got Shane Steichen, who just helped Jalen Hurts. And then you've got my apologies, I already forgot. Oh, Cam Turner, my bad. Had a brain fart there. Then you've got Cam Turner, who helped with Kyler Murray, albeit he did have a really bad injury that sidelined him for most of the year. But this is a home run hit. I think that the staff that's being built around Indianapolis right now is tailored to just help a young rookie quarterback hit the ground running. And I think he did a great job of picking his quarterback coach for sure.
Yeah, I think, and I mean, the connection to Norv Turner certainly helps, but you're talking about 37-year-old Shane Steichen. You're talking about 38-year-old Jim Bob Cooter. And I think Cam Turner is around 35, 36, somewhere around there.
Yep.
You've got young guys who are going to be helping coach up this rookie quarterback who can relate to this young 21, 22, maybe 24-year-old in the case of Will Levis. But a young guy coming up, you're going to have someone that can relate to these guys, a lot of brilliant young offensive minds around this quarterback position. And one of the things I heard about this coaching search is not only were the Colts asking candidates who they wanted to hire as an offensive coordinator, but who could possibly replace that offensive coordinator if that offensive coordinator got a job elsewhere. So say Jim Bob Cooter gets a head coaching opportunity elsewhere if this rookie quarterback for the Colts really succeeds and takes off. That could leave Cam Turner in line to possibly get promoted to offensive coordinator, a guy that's been around quarterbacks for a long time. So I think that comes into it as well. But honestly, about Cam Turner, I'm really excited. I think it's going to be a very underrated hire by the Colts, and I would not be surprised if he really flourishes in this role.
Well, and you got to talk about the fact that he was with Newton, who needed help with his passing mechanics. Then you have a guy like Murray, who kind of like Bryce Young had to navigate being a little bit smaller than the surrounding linemen on offense and defense. So this is, and they both did pretty dang good under his tutelage. So look, I think it's a great hire. And I think that, again, it really suits whether you're raw like Richardson or you're secure like a Young or a Stroud. I mean, it's going to benefit anybody who's walking into this facility.
Right, absolutely. And as JB says, a very young offensive staff, but that might not necessarily be a bad thing. And then the final move that the Colts made, wide receiver coach Reggie Wayne confirmed himself on Twitter this week that he is returning as the wide receiver coach for the Colts. We knew that was probably going to be the case. Everything that we had heard about Reggie Wayne staying on the staff has been confirmed. And from what I've heard, Reggie Wayne is absolutely juiced to be working with Shane Steichen. He is super excited to see what Steichen can bring to this team and excited to get to work with his new head coach.
Well, and you got to think that the one thing on offense that was at any point the silver lining, the shining star, was the wide receivers. Big plays came from the receivers. Big plays came from a rookie in Alec Pierce. Paris Campbell actually looked pretty dang good considering the quarterback situation. Pittman still, I think he had either around very close or over 100 catches again. Almost had 1,000 yards. Nothing was really used correctly due to the quarterback situation. And yet the receivers did shine at times. So now imagine him with Shane Steichen, Jim Bob Cooter, Cam Turner. You've got a quarterback that could potentially sling the ball, and Alec Pierce going into his sophomore season. Boy, that sounds pretty great to me. So I am ecstatic that Wayne is coming back.
As DSG Goodbar says, yay to Reggie. Absolutely. I think this is a great move by the Colts. I wanted Reggie to be back. Reggie did a lot of good work with the wide receivers. He really connected with that group. I know the young receivers wanted Reggie Wayne back really badly as well. Don't fix something that isn't broken. And I'm excited to see what Reggie Wayne can continue to do with this group. So honestly, great show tonight, everybody. It was a lot of fun talking, breaking down the clips from Chris Ballard, Shane Steichen, wondering if Bryce Young was the target or not. Chat again every single time. You guys are just killing it. Shout out to Sarah, DSG Goodbar, Freddie, Stats Matt, JB, Ozzy, Phoenix, Unboxing Mania. Let's see. There's Wombat. There's so many of you guys. If I didn't say your name, I'm sorry. Megal, JB, all you guys, Rich Wheeler. Fantastic. I could keep going on and on. And please, if you haven't done so already, go ahead and follow us on all the things, like Horseshoe Huddle on Facebook, follow Horseshoe Huddle on Twitter at Colts on FN, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and hit that bell so you know whenever we're going live. We're so close to 1,000. At this point, we'll be to 1,000 before April even happens. But hey, we definitely need to be over 1,000 before draft night. You guys want to? There could be a chance that I might be going to Kansas City for the draft to cover that. You guys want to see me down there in a fresh new suit and a shaved head? Get that to 1K subscribers.
I want to see that. So hit that subscribe button.
Hit it. So before we get out of here, Drake, I know you've been writing away, putting content out there on horseshoehuddle.com. What are some of the pieces that you got out there that the people need to go check out?
There's a couple. One of them is that I think that the Colts are building an offensive staff for a rookie quarterback. And the other one is that the Colts ranked 16th out of 32 teams in the NFL in overall facility grades. So go check that out. It's actually the credit goes to, hold on, there we go, to Andrew for the idea to post that article. So very interesting read.
Yeah, it is very interesting. Definitely check those out. I had an article go out this morning breaking everything down from the Chris Ballard and Shane Steichen pressers yesterday. And again, kind of going over why I think Bryce Young is quarterback number one for the Indianapolis Colts at this moment in time. So definitely go check that out. We're going to have much more coming out around these draft prospects. Going to have some guests between now and the draft. It's going to be a fun time. So go ahead, and as I get these banners down, go ahead and go follow Drake at D Walster Drake. You can follow me at Andrew Moore NFL, and we will be back on Monday night to talk about our combine experience, what we saw, anything we heard about who the Colts are meeting with, who the Colts have interest in. We're going to give it all to you Monday night. So we will see you guys then, and enjoy the combine this weekend.